PM Briseno chairs cabinet from home. We'll have an update on his condition. But when will he have an update for the nation on the plan for COVID and the CEOs? And he wanted to be a nurse, but a 20-year-old was killed last night in ongoing gang warfare in the Martins area. Also a touching story of a baby with a birth defect. They couldn't fly him out for specialized surgery, so doctors here made a miracle procedure to save his life. We've got details of these and other stories in our newscast for tonight, Tuesday, November 24th, 2020. Good evening. With your news, I'm Enver Marin.
For hydration, when the choice is yours, choose the brand you have always trusted. Crystal, taste you can trust.
Challenging time for HelpAge Belize. However, BEL has supported us even more by providing credit for our Golden Citizen electricity bill, along with financial assistance to ensure that we were able to continue our programs, which include geriatric medical consultation, physiotherapy, Meals on Wheels, and food pantry. Thanks to BEL for your continued support, and many thanks to our teams of dedicated volunteers.
Stay safe and submit your sickness benefit claim form electronically. Follow these 4 steps. Step 1. Obtain your medical certificate. At consultation, the doctor certifies your days of illness and provides you with a medical certificate. Step 2. Fill out your sickness benefit form. Complete all the fields in parts 1 to 4 on the front page of the sickness benefit form. Step 3. Request your salaries record form. Contact your employer for your salaries record form. Step 4. Submit your sickness benefit claim form. Scan or take a clear picture of the sickness benefit form, salaries record, and proof of bank account. Email the documents to claims@socialsecurity.org.bz within 14 days. You will receive an email reply confirming receipt of your claim. After the submission of all documents, your claim is processed for payment to your account. For any COVID-related illnesses, contact the Ministry of Health for further guidance. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
Ray, what's wrong? It's him. He hit me again.
Oh my gosh.
This time it was worse. He slammed my face in the wall and threatened to kill me. If you or someone you know is experiencing family violence, call 0800-A-WAY-OUT. Or you can text or WhatsApp to 672-9628. This message is brought to you by the National Women's Commission, with funding from The Engender and Spotlight Projects.
March 11th, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic. A pandemic means the virus is everywhere, but it might not be everywhere at the same time. If there are no cases in your area, it does not mean that there will never be cases in your area. Here's what you can do to delay the spread of COVID-19 in your community. Stay home unless it's absolutely necessary for you to go out. Practice physical distancing when you leave home. Wash your hands frequently using soap and water for at least 40 seconds or use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Avoid contact with anyone who has fever, cough and cold, or flu-like symptoms. Obey quarantine, isolation, and curfew rules. Clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces such as doorknobs, counters, phones, and tablets. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth without first washing your hands. Help keep Belize safe.
Entertainment and gaming increases, so does the demand for bandwidth and faster speeds. If you're a gamer, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about extremely reliable, low latency, high-speed internet connection that is crucial for smooth gaming. A next-generation connection. That's why I chose next-gen high-speed internet for my streaming needs. They are by far the best internet service provider in Belize. NextGen has noticed the vast growth of gaming audience, and as an innovative company, they are the first broadband internet service providers powered by gamers. Now, they're taking the lead in providing a package that's just right for us gamers. So what are you waiting for? Sign up today.
Prime Minister John Briseno may have tested positive for COVID-19, but he told our newsroom via text today that he feels well with no major symptoms and chaired a virtual cabinet meeting today. And as long as health allowed, he had to chair that meeting because the government has urgent business to get on with. And the public is getting impatient. This afternoon, PM Briseno, who still has not hosted a press conference almost 2 weeks into his term, put up a Facebook post halfway between apology and explanation of his COVID condition. Here's what it said and what it means.
In this afternoon's post, Briseno says, quote, "I am feeling fine and I'm working in quarantine until further notice from the medical experts." 6 weeks ago in October, Briseno told us that in the event of contracting the coronavirus, it's the isolation that would kill him.
I know every day that I get home, Rosanna is, scared and said, you see, you might get us sick, kind of joking and so forth. Although she likes to joke that should I get COVID, that I will not die from COVID. I'll be dying from being alone in a room for 2 weeks. I hate being alone.
That was 6 weeks ago, but today via text, Briseno told us he's not alone. He said he chaired a virtual meeting of cabinet today. But clearly his priority in this post is to make the point that he's been responsible even when the evidence we've seen shows less than optimal engagements. Briseno writes, quote, "While I am always doing my utmost to wear a mask and physically distance from others, my job does require a lot of interaction with people, and so I am glad that we were able to catch the infection in the early stages to prevent any further spread." And while no one has said for sure where he was infected or who the Prime Minister got it from or gave it to, he tells us his family have all tested negative. But we do know that his Cabinet Secretary, Stuart Leslie, with whom he's had close and daily contact, is positive for COVID-19, as well as at least one other elected PUP representative. But Briseno says in his post he's been taking measures, and so should everyone. Quote, "I want to take this opportunity to implore everyone to please take all necessary precautions against this dangerous disease. We must protect each other by wearing our masks, physically distancing, and self-quarantining if we have any suspicious or flu-like symptoms. While many of us are doing the right things, the sad truth is many of us are still not, and we are unwittingly spreading this virus." Close quote. Lastly, while COVID numbers keep climbing, Briseno says his government is coming up with a plan. Quote, Our medical and economic experts are hard at work finalizing our comprehensive countrywide COVID-19 strategy, which I believe will go a long way to combating this pandemic and protecting our people. But before the election, he said he had a plan.
And we are making plans as we speak as to how we're going to be addressing these issues. The issue of COVID, as I mentioned this morning, we need to change the way we are handling the COVID pandemic at this time.
Until he got to Belmopan and apparently, to his dismay, found there was no plan.
We were shocked to learn that there is no real plan to contain the spread of the virus. Cabinet instructed the Minister of Health to meet with his technical team and advisors to develop a comprehensive plan to address the spread of this virus.
The bottom line is that more than feel-good Facebook posts, Briseno's administration needs to present a COVID response quickly. 45 persons have died in the last 12 days.
In a brief address to the nation last week, Briseno spoke about the comprehensive COVID plan that was due to be presented today and a pending report from Minister of Infrastructure Development and Housing and the Minister of Disaster Risk Management, presumably about the flooding. Also at today's cabinet, Briseno said he would discuss the team of CEOs assigned to each ministry. Did all that happen? Well, we don't know. Right now it's cabinet confidential and no press release has been issued. So, bottom line, the long-awaited final list of CEOs is still not known. So, for sure, the public is getting impatient, and today the opposition UDP hinted at that. A release wishing Prime Minister Briseno a speedy recovery, but also calls on him to reconvene the National Oversight Committee, which had been managing the nation's COVID-19 response, was sent. The UDP says it would participate as part of, quote, a bipartisan approach to this health crisis. A release adds, quote, Belize is currently in a critical window and actions taken over the next few days will save lives or result in additional sickness and deaths. Health experts expect a spike in new infections to be manifested in the coming days as a result of Election Day. Let us act before it is too late. End quote. And PM Briseno isn't the only PUP politician battling COVID. Cayo West Representative Jorge Milin Espat today confirmed to us via text that he is hospitalized at Belize Healthcare Partners with COVID-19. He was at least well enough to send a text message and added that his PUP colleague Toledo East's Michael Espat, who had been hospitalized there for COVID-19, has been released and sent home. A family is grieving two siblings tonight after one was shot yesterday, days after the other was buried on Sunday. 20-year-old Devin Amoa was killed inside his yard on Gill Street around 6:30 last night, while his sister lost her battle to cancer last week. Courtney Menzies visited the family and found out about their loss.
A beloved 20-year-old, whose dream was to work in the medical field, was callously killed while inside his own yard last night. Devin Amoa, an attendant at the Belize Medical Associates, had just returned home from buying medicine for his ailing mother when a gunman kicked open his gate and shot him several times. His family is left shocked, since Amoa was known as an ambitious and motivated person who wanted to be a nurse. His brother, Houston Amoa, said that he had big plans for his life, the life that was cut short far too soon.
My brother, I'm a hard-working man. The man come out of school, the man actually finish fourth form because me and all of my brothers, me personally never finish, and the other two gone at night school. I'm the only one who push through and finish fourth form, everything. Don't have to trade school, no nothing. You come out of school, you work hard, you end up to get a job there. So far, he seems like he will do big things. He will go be a nurse. He will move out from around here. He got plans.
But Amoa was a lot more than just hardworking. He was popular and well-liked, as illustrated by the outpouring of condolences on social media, as his friends grieved alongside his family. His brother told us he will miss Amoa's easygoing personality. Your sister also told us that he was like the life of the party.
He was an entertainer in the morning, it boy. Well, when he talk to the girl and thing, you know, and like the vibes and thing. In a peaceful young man, when a time for party, he party.
The family speculates that the gunman was lying in wait in the neighbor's unfenced yard for a moment to strike, shot him, and then escaped into the night. The family also does not believe that he was a target, but rather that it was a friend who had just left Amoa's home.
I do not have the full details at this moment, but they may supposed to make on you for me can kill somebody else, but just that you know, when you can't catch Harry, you catch a shirt.
Now the family is left with not just one loss to grieve, but two, since they buried Amoa's 27-year-old sister, Tatiana Amoa, the day before he was killed. She had been battling cancer and passed away last week, Monday. Their brother Houston expressed the emotions he is dealing with and said that he is trying to keep it together for the sake of his family. Does your family feel any kind of fear, that your home was targeted essentially?
Fear? No. No fear. I would say anger and frustration. They're angry and frustrated, but at this moment I have to be the one to think for everybody and make sure that my people's are safe. At the moment, we just to try, bring everybody together and see how we deal with this, because my sister just gave every Sunday, and now we have to plan another funeral.
Courtney Menzies, 7 News.
And a quick correction, that murder happened on Guile Street, not Gill Street. Amoa had been working at the Belize Medical Associates as a clinic attendant since he graduated high school and planned to go to nursing school in January. BMA issued a statement in which they said, quote, "He will be remembered as a kind-hearted, sweet, respectable and humble individual who never refused to go the extra mile, no matter how far it was," end quote. While Amoa's life was lost, another man survived the shooting this afternoon just before 3 on Ordonez Street in the same red-hot Martins area. The victim, 29-year-old Charles Young, was on Ordonez Street when a gunman opened fire on him. Fortunately, he was not seriously injured and received only a graze in his back and right upper arm. He was discharged from the hospital earlier this evening. While no motive is known at this time or if he was indeed the intended target, he is no stranger to the law. Back in 2011, he was charged for a double murder in Belize City. In 2015, he walked from those charges. He has also been shot at before. And there is the news of one more city shooting, which happened less than half an hour ago on West Collett Canal in the Mesopotamia area. The victim was rushed to the KHMH, and reports at this hour are that he has died. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll tell you about an early morning murder in the tiny village of Ranchito Corozal, plus the heartwarming story of baby Enver, a $1 million baby treated right here at home for a rare birth defect. Don't go away.
Looking for a paint which offers durability, fast drying action, easy application, long-lasting protection, and low odor? Then Coronado is the brand you need. Choose from eggshell, flat, or semi-gloss finishes for your home's interior or exterior. You can also protect your deck from the harsh outdoor elements with Coronado Maxum deck and siding stain. We also have primers, masonry and metal coatings for other projects around your home. Benny's Paint Center has the paint you need in the color and finish you want. Enjoy your newly painted home with long-lasting, durable Coronado paints. Available at Benny's. Quality and savings.
You've worked hard your whole life building your future, your family, your business, your home. And when you aren't around to safeguard your most beloved assets, you are at ease because you know they are protected by RF&G Insurance. For over 50 years, RF&G has been making sure business owners get back to work after an accident, and families get back into their homes quickly after a natural disaster. At RF&G, it's you who matters most. Visit us today and learn why it pays to get it right. RF&G Insurance, a Rowe Group company.
Stay safe and submit your sickness benefit claim form electronically. Follow these 4 steps. Step 1. Obtain your medical certificate. At consultation, The doctor certifies your days of illness and provides you with a medical certificate. Step 2. Fill out your sickness benefit form. Complete all the fields in parts 1 to 4 on the front page of the sickness benefit form. Step 3. Request your salaries record form. Contact your employer for your salaries record form. Step 4. Submit your sickness benefit claim form. Scan or take a clear picture of the sickness benefit form, salaries record, and proof of bank account. Email the documents to claims@socialsecurity.org.bz within 14 days. You will receive an email reply confirming receipt of your claim. After the submission of all documents, your claim is processed for payment to your account. For any COVID-related illnesses, contact the Ministry of Health for further guidance. Social Security Board, safeguarding you, your family, your future.
Ray, what's wrong? It's him. He hit me again. Oh my gosh. This time it was worse. He slammed my face in the wall and threatened to kill me. If you or someone you know is experiencing family violence, call 0800 A Way Out. Or you can text or WhatsApp to 672-9628. This message is brought to you by the National Women's Commission, with funding from The Engender and Spotlight Projects.
Delicate, the beer of Belize.
The virus that causes COVID-19 may be spreading in our community. People might have the disease even if they have no symptoms at all, even when they look healthy. Because the virus needs us to spread from one person to another, we can stop it from infecting others if we practice physical distancing. That means stay at least 6 feet away from other persons. Don't shake hands or exchange hugs. Do not gather in groups. Stay home if government officials tell you to do so. Use social media or telephone to communicate. Avoid crowded and enclosed spaces. Work from home if you can. Stay home if you are sick, except to get medical care. Avoid close contact with sick people. Don't visit anyone who's sick in quarantine or in isolation. Give them a call instead. Help keep Belize safe.
We've already told you about the murder in the city, and while that one was probably the result of gang warfare, no one knows for sure what was behind an early morning murder in Carzol. 40-year-old Rigoberto Rosado was shot and killed in his yard this morning. It happened at around 4:30 a.m. in the village of Ranchito, just outside Carzol town. This morning, CTV3 spoke to the victim's brother, Jaime, who told them that he woke up to the sound of gunshots and looked outside to see his brother crying out in pain.
At around 4 in the morning, I heard the dogs barking and barking. And I looked at my phone and it was already 4, so I said, it's Rigo who's walking out there. He's going to make his lunch since he works in Cerro San. So I said, he's getting up to make his lunch so that he can go work. But at the same moment, I heard him open the door and I heard that they opened and fired shots. A noise like if they were brandishing a machete on the wall, but not a new machete, an old machete. When I heard that, I heard someone crying, and when I opened the window, I saw the person who hurt my brother riding away on a bike. But my other brothers recognized exactly who it was. My nephew began to scream, "What happened, uncle? What happened?" And I came out with a t-shirt that we put on my brother to create pressure to stop the bleeding. We called the police and they didn't arrive until 5 in the morning, like an hour later.
Y no llegó hasta como las 5 creo de la mañana, además como una hora después.
Rosales was taken to the Northern Regional Hospital and later to the Orange Walk Northern Regional, where he succumbed to his injuries. He's the $1 million baby that, due to COVID, had to be cured at home. We say $1 million because that's what it would have cost if Enver Marin had traveled to the US for the surgery that saved his life. But instead, that surgery was done right here in Belize. And this afternoon, on the day Enver was set to be discharged, Cherise Halsal got to meet him, his parents, and the team he and his family can thank for his survival. Here's her story.
It was a first for the KHMH's neonatal intensive care unit, as one of the so-called $1 million babies, a child born without a direct connection from his esophagus to his stomach, was cured right here at the National Referral Hospital. It's all thanks to the NICU's team of surgeons, doctors, and nurses who worked tirelessly to cure and rehabilitate 5-week-old Enver Marin. And this afternoon, Enver's dad told us about the rough start that he and his third-born have been through in the 5 weeks since his birth.
He was born in Orange Walk, in a private facility. After he was born, where the pediatric doctor noticed that he was not swallowing, so they decided to do the test and putting in a tube through his mouth to see if it goes to his stomach, and that is how they found out that it was not connected. So they had to rush him the same day he born and rush him here because this is the only facility that has the equipment and doctors capable to be able to do the surgery. The first week I was here all alone because my wife had a C-section, so I was here all alone, and it was a very, very difficult time because I had to worry if she's okay, the hospital in Orange Walk, and then I have my child here, far from home.
But they might have had to go further from home. Babies with Enver's condition got their $1 million moniker because that's what it cost to fly them to the US for life-saving surgery. And while today was Enver's discharge day, his surgery carried its risks.
At that point, I can't even think. I just placed my son in God's hands and asked for guidance from him and make the decision to have the surgery done here. Because when I came, I was directed to Dr. Castillo, and he is the one who explained to me that yes, there's a possibility that the surgery can be done here, and he explained the entire rundown of it, and then I decided to. Somehow I felt in my heart that it will be something that will come more successful, and that's what we did.
It's trust that was well placed as Dr. Castillo and Koi, pictured here at a safe social distance from Enver's parents, pioneered this particular pediatric surgery.
This birth defect that is called esophageal atresia is one of the most complex defects that we face in the field of pediatric surgery. And as we discussed with Dr. Koi, we felt that the country was in the moment that we could try to start fixing this problem here because of the development in the neonatal intensive care and also the presence of our professionals here that we could deal with this problem. So that was the starting point to decide to perform this surgery here in the country.
There are conditions that you can actually cure. So in this case, the opportunity to fix a very serious defect results in the cure of this condition, and therefore we expect this baby to grow normally. And therefore, again, this is part of the joy in doing surgery, where at the end of the day, you have a complete result. We would like to be able to do more of these cases in the future as they arise, but we are also humbled in medicine by the fact that, we can't fix everything. And we also have to know when our limitations are there so that we can ask for help elsewhere. So on the balance of things is that we are doing more and we are doing better than before.
But apart from his surgeons, Enver was also cared for by a host of support staff, including nurses and pediatricians. Post-op, they guided him through a life-threatening infection.
Enver Marin is a very, very strong child. He was fighting through it. That was something that impressed us with him, because he was fighting for during the infection, because there was some complications and he fought through it. It was really, really, we were overwhelmed with all the things that we had to go through, but thank God that baby made it through the procedure and we can finally go home. So it was a struggle, but we managed.
But history has been made. This is a very, very, very proud moment for NICU. Everyone is happy. Taking care of baby Marin, he's a fighter. He is really a fighter. When he first came, we got to know his condition. He went for surgery. He came back very strong baby. He was very critical. We had to have 24-hour watch on him, just like with all other babies, but whenever they're critical, even more so, he needed one-to-one patient care. Normally, because we're short-staffed, we'd have maybe 1 to 4, 1 to 5, but for him, it was one-to-one patient care. He was that critical. So seeing him go home today is an amazing achievement. We had to watch him to make sure his oxygen saturation was up. We had to watch him to make sure his heart was beating fine. We had to monitor all the drainage from all the tubes. We had to make sure he did not pull out that tube in his nose. Despite sedation, he was still there, always trying to pull something. He had 2 chest tubes in, both of them on this side. So him fussing and crying, moving, could have caused those to be dislodged, and then he'd have to go right over back in the process all over again.
A lot of effort and a lot of sleepless nights to ensure that this Sugar City boy could go home to grow up big, strong, and as healthy as can be. So how is he doing now?
Oh, he's good. He's good. He's very hungry. He's a bit slim, but because he hasn't been eating for more than a month, but the doctors are optimistic that he will gain back his size and grow. And man, that child is a very strong child. On behalf of my wife and myself and my entire family and loved ones, a special thank you to the entire team. Man, these people are amazing people. I have a family here now with them, so I would like to congratulate them for the hard work that they do. And I would like to also thank the people that put this institution together, because it's something that I myself, if the need hadn't arisen, I would have never known that this institution exists.
Cherise Halto, 7 News.
Enver's Belizean surgery ended up costing around $20,000, and according to the surgeon who gave us that ballpark figure, it's one that was highly subsidized. Last night's COVID-19 report says that 4 more Belizeans died from the virus yesterday. All 4 victims were from the Coronado district, 3 males and 1 female. Their ages ranged from 34 to 72 years old, and their deaths brought the country's fatality rate to 2.3%. A total of 252 samples were tested yesterday, and 67 came back positive. This report also provided a detailed breakdown of the number of deaths by each district. As you can see from this infographic, Orange Walk currently has the most COVID deaths at 51. Coronado is second with 26 deaths. There were 18 deaths in Cayo. The Belize district is right behind with 17. Both Stan Creek and Toledo have only had 3 COVID deaths. The high-profile murder trial of PC Michelle Brown, who is accused of killing 39-year-old Barbara Farid Ahmad, continued today. Ahmad's wife, Irma Dyer, took the stand and gave an emotional testimony. She told the court that she witnessed her husband gasping for air on the ground at the scene of the crime. After the officer who claims to have issued a firearm to Brown, Abner Itza, took the stand. He testified to the gun being a black Beretta firearm, but later it was discovered that the brand and serial number he gave was wrong. He was allowed to read over a couple lines from his 2017 statement, only to remember that the gun was actually a black Bersa 9mm pistol, along with a magazine containing 15 live rounds. This discrepancy prompted Brown's defense attorney to question the officer's statement as to whether he even issued the firearm in the first place. Attorney Anthony Sylvester asked him why he failed to attach the log sheet, which he claimed that Brown signed when he gave her the gun to his report, which he gave 7 days after the murder. Corporal Itza also testified that Brown never returned the gun. He tried calling her numerous times that night, but was met with voicemail. Another witness took the stand at 3 this afternoon. Jason Betson, a resident of mile 16 on the George Price Highway, testified that he was at his home on the morning of December 28th when he heard a loud noise. He looked outside the door and saw that a BMW had crashed into his brother's parked truck. When he went outside, along with several other witnesses, he saw that 2 persons were trapped inside the vehicle. The witnesses were able to free Ahmad, who had to exit through the back seat. He then saw a woman that he identified to the court as Brown in the passenger seat. She was also taken out of the vehicle, and she told Betson to check her because she and Ahmad had been fighting with a gun present. The trial will continue tomorrow at 9 in the morning in front of Justice Colin Williams. Thinking about a stateside summer vacation but have no visa? Well, it may still be possible. Well, that's because in February, the U.S. Embassy Consular Section is expected to reopen to receive applications for tourist visas. That hasn't been the case since March 16th of 2020, when COVID shut down the world as well as Belize's U.S. Embassy. But yesterday, when we caught up with the Chargé d'Affaires, Keith Gilges, he told us that February is the mark, although that could change.
Sir, any indication when the U.S. Embassy will begin to accept applications for tourist visas again?
Well, we are hopeful that by February, that's sort of the tentative date that's out there right now to be able to start doing tourist visas again. We can do some visas on an emergency basis, but it's a relatively high bar to be able to do that. But we are anticipating February. If it can be sooner, believe me, we'd like to get up and running again, as much as I think a lot of Belizeans would like to be able to come in and get visas to travel. But yeah, at this point, we're looking at February as our startup date. Again, that is a flexible thing, so don't hold me to it.
Sir, in the meantime, student visas and those others are being processed.
So there are some categories of emergency visas that are being processed. So yes, there was a group of Belizean students who are actually going to Taiwan, our other great partner, and a number of them didn't have transit visas. So we said, absolutely, that's the sort of thing that we are going to prioritize and say, yes, for those students, if they didn't go then, they were going to lose their program, and that was so important. So we opened up and said, we're going to process those visas. So we do emergency visas on a case-by-case basis as determined by the consular chief.
As we told you earlier, there is still no word from Belmopan on who the government CEOs are, nor has the so-called COVID plan been publicized. But while there is obviously some level of bathing in Belmopan, the Ashcroft Alliance seems to be getting on smartly with its checklist. It's no secret that the alliance had openly feuded with the Barrow administration, which deliberately dragged its feet on approving the Belize Bank acquisition of Scotiabank. And Barrow's cabinet had also rejected the proposal for a Port of Belize cruise and bulk cargo expansion by the alliance's Waterloo Investment Holdings Limited. Well, since the election, reliable reports say the central bank has signed off on the Scotiabank acquisition. And now we see that a virtual public consultation on the environmental impact assessment for the Port of Belize cruise and cargo expansion is scheduled for Thursday night. It will start at 6 on the Government of Belize's Facebook page. Public comments and concerns are invited. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll have much more news. Don't go away.
Challenging time for HelpAge Belize. However, BEL has supported us even more by providing credit for our Golden Citizen electricity bill, along with financial assistance to ensure that we were able to continue our programs, which include geriatric medical consultation, physiotherapy, Meals on Wheels, and food pantry. Thanks to BEL for your continued support, and many thanks to our teams of dedicated volunteers.
Looking for a paint which offers durability, fast drying action, easy application, long-lasting protection, and low odor? Then Coronado is the brand you need. Choose from eggshell, flat, or semi-gloss finishes for your home's interior or exterior. You can also protect your deck from the harsh outdoor elements with Coronado Maxum deck and siding stain. We also have primers, masonry, and metal coatings for other projects around your home. Benny's Paint Center has the paint you need in the color and finish you want. Enjoy your newly painted home with long-lasting, durable Coronado paints. Available at Benny's. Quality and savings.
On March 11th, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic. A pandemic means the virus is everywhere, but it might not be everywhere at the same time. If there are no cases in your area, it does not mean that there will never be cases in your area. Here's what you can do to delay the spread of COVID-19 in your community. Stay home unless it's absolutely necessary for you to go out. Practice physical distancing when you leave home. Wash your hands frequently using soap and water for at least 40 seconds, or use alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Avoid contact with anyone who has fever, cough and cold, or flu-like symptoms. Obey quarantine, isolation, and curfew rules. Clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces such as doorknobs, counters, phones, and tablets. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth without first washing your hands. Help keep Belize safe.
For the past few newscasts, we've shown you the distress that the countrywide flood from Hurricane Iota have been causing Belizeans after the day's long torrential rain finally eased up on Monday. All that water must find its way from the island areas of the country to the coast via the rivers and other major waterways. One concerned citizen living near the Hattieville Boom Road is reporting tonight that the entire community of the Ridge Lagoon estate, which is made up of approximately 16 families, is being inconvenienced by one family which lives across the road from them. He says that this family is attempting to solve their flood issues by pumping that water out of their property across the road. All that water is spilling into the Ridge Lagoon community and worsening their flooding. This evening, this concerned citizen granted us a telephone interview to explain what exactly is happening.
The area around here is called Ridge Lagoon Estates. The last time we had seen flooding like this was, I think, in 2007 and 2008 when the entire country was flooded. So when we saw that flood in Cayo, we expected it to reach here eventually. It was raising gradually, like I'd say probably a half inch an hour over the past 2-3 days. And we were preparing ourselves for it. And then this morning, I realized that across the street, where there's a business establishment, a construction company, I realized that they brought in an excavator and they dammed off a culvert which runs under the street, which connects their property to a pond that's in Ridge Lagoon. That pond then connects to a canal which runs to the river.
Okay.
But I mean, over the past 2 weeks with all the rains that were coming down, their side was flooded.
Okay.
And so what I noticed this morning, they took an excavator and they blocked off the culvert so that the water from this side, or they claimed the water from this side would not go over there. And then they connected an industrial water pump and started to pump out the water from that side of the road onto our side. And the water started to raise like 1.5 inches, 2 inches an hour. I mean, right now we probably have about almost a foot or a little over a foot of water over the entire neighborhood. The flood, they affect everybody, and you can't make yourself immune to the flood by then disenfranchising or making other people's situation worse.
According to this concerned resident, the community raised their complaint with the offending family and that late this evening they discontinued their pumping operations. He's concerned that this family may restart their flood pumping if there is no regulatory action taken to stop them. And what you've seen all across Belize during these flooded weeks is arguably part of the climate change which is playing out in real time across the region. We wondered what sort of flood mitigation measures could be implemented on behalf of those low-income families who are forced to live in areas of their country which are chronically flood-prone. We got an opportunity to discuss that topic yesterday with Dr. Colin Young, the new Executive Director of the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, or 5Cs Center. Here's what he had to say about the limited options available to these CARICOM citizens who are usually the most devastated by hurricanes which continue to intensify annually.
That's a very difficult question because it involves people and therein lies the challenge that comes with it. But ideally, what we would want to see is that in the various countries where there are recurrent issues of flooding, in some cases it can be annually, in some cases it can be every decade, in others it's once every 50 years, but is to use the data to come up with adequate zoning plans. And ideally what you would want is that the member states avoid the settling of people in areas that are prone to flooding and prone to disasters. In terms of communities that are already established, then you have to look at, again, using the data to see how best that can be mitigated, whether it's by doing better drainage, whether it's a combination of that and putting hard infrastructure in terms of seawalls or flood mitigation, dikes, and so on. But these things are expensive. They are very, very expensive. And as a result, many of our countries don't have the resources to invest in the kind of infrastructure that would be needed to flood-proof particular areas. And so this is where I believe states have to work with those populations to try to ascertain what are the best options available, whether it's relocation, whether it's trying to look at adaptation measures that can at least delay the frequency of the flooding. But ultimately what you need is you need to know and map all of your flood zones, all of your flood areas, and then draft up the zonation policy that then adheres to that. Because then once the disasters come, obviously then the damage is going to be extensive.
Bringing on the weather, Belizeans closely tracking the weather patterns for the last 2 years will definitely notice the two extremes in climate that we've been facing. In 2019, we experienced what local officials said was the worst drought in the last 30 years. Then, in the last 2 weeks of April 2020, the Kaya district was in distress after the raging fires broke out in the Vaca and Chiquibul forest reserves. Those were helped along by the scorchingly high temperatures earlier in the year. There is also the very active 2020 hurricane season with its record number of storms. Belize, like the rest of Central America, is currently trying to recover from the floods caused by the two deadly November hurricanes Eta and Iota. If you're wondering why the climate suddenly seems more extreme than normal, a recently completed study called the State of the Caribbean Climate Report says that the entire Caribbean is collectively facing a similar weather crisis. Some of the brightest minds in the Caribbean carried out a detailed analysis of the weather patterns in the CARICOM states. They have concluded that all of the extreme climate events of the last decade are directly connected to climate change and global warming. They are also predicting that extreme weather conditions like 2019 and 2020 will become the norm and that the people of the Caribbean must adapt and become climate resilient. The report was officially unveiled yesterday in a regional 2-hour press conference, which was broadcasted live on UWI's Facebook page. Here are a few key excerpts from the presentation.
We do not need to be reminded of the significance of climate change for our region. We have watched, unfolding before our eyes, predictions that climate events would become more variable, more intense, and more damaging for the predominantly small island states of the Caribbean. In the past 3 years, I joined 2 CARICOM missions to witness firsthand the damage and destruction caused by Hurricane Maria on Dominica and Hurricane Dorian on the Bahamas. These front row views of the catastrophic impact of hurricanes reinforced my own conviction that climate change must remain at the top of CDB's assistance agenda and underscored the urgency of Caribbean governments building resilience to climate change.
Our climate is already changing. If you look on chapter 3 picks up that message and discusses it in terms of rainfall and temperatures. It discusses it by using climatologies, which first of all just set the baseline. It is this chapter that makes the case that the Caribbean has warmed already, and that warming is having a significant impact on our way of life. It is this chapter that makes the case that interannual or year-to-year variability in rainfall, where one year is extremely wet and the next year is extremely dry, is an important and significant manifestation of our changing climate, which we must come to terms with. Within the last 11 years, we have had 2 major region-wide multi-year droughts that have impacted the Caribbean and impacted our way of life. Chapter 4 supports the idea that our climate is already changing. If we are going to live with this climate that's already changing, early warning has to be a part of the strategy going forward. There is a need to understand and forecast Caribbean climate extremes as they will only grow under projected climate change. Chapter 6 looks on some of these extremes. We're on a track for a hotter regime. We're on a track for continued variability in rainfall, but around a lower mean, so a drier future, higher sea levels, and more intense hurricanes. This chapter presents all this kind of picture for the Caribbean, and it does so for 3 time frames: the 2020s for immediate planning, the 2050s for midterm planning, and the 2090s for long-term planning.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I close, I wish to make 2 important points which should underpin our future work on climate change. First, early investment can reduce economic damage and loss of lives to disasters. Therefore, Caribbean countries must take early action and receive the full support of the development agencies in planning, in implementing safeguard measures, and investing in the appropriate climate resilient infrastructure. Second, climate change adaptation and mitigation are more effective when they are fully integrated into a comprehensive and sustainable development framework.
This study was carried out through collaboration between the University of the West Indies and the Caribbean Development Bank, the African, Caribbean and Pacific Group of States and the European Union. Dolores Valderramas Garcia has been appointed as the new Minister of Human Development, replacing Anthony Boots Martinez. But her ministry comes along with more than just that, as it now includes families and Indigenous Peoples Affairs. It's a brand new ministry, and yesterday, Minister Valderramas explained more about what her work will involve.
I would really like us to focus a little bit more on persons with disabilities. And of course, because of the rebranding of the ministry, the social transformation aspect will be gone, and in terms of the name, please, it won't be gone in terms of substance, but in terms of the rebranding having to do with families, I want to give a special emphasis there as well. Of course, the work is never done, and I want to put in a plug for our social workers and our workers in the ministry, who I consider to be frontline. And many times, the human development people do not get the recognition that we deserve, because, and I'm putting in a plug for the people who work very arduously in this ministry and many times don't get the recognition. But disabilities, families, and of course, we have to sort of fashion how the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs is going to operate. The Maya land rights case has given us a mandate to work together. There must be no balkanization of the country of Belize, but at the same time, the consent order of the court, having recognized that there are customary land rights in terms of communal land and individual land, we have to find a way to work together. And the Indigenous Peoples of Belize, the Garifuna people and the Maya people, have my commitment to work hard as we try to fashion the ministry going forward.
Our Minister of State in Port Loyola is Gilroy Usher. 54-year-old Egner Guerrero is still missing tonight after he left his George Street home at around 8:30 on Friday morning. Guerrero, who is mentally ill and suffers from epilepsy, should have been headed to the home of relatives but never made it there. He was last sighted near Hattieville, but his family believes that he could have traveled as far as Belmopan, where he also has relatives. This morning, his daughter stopped by our studios to make a passionate plea for her father's return.
He went missing from since Friday around 8:30 in the morning. We just thought that he went normal, that he goes to my grandfather's sister's houses, to their family house. But when we saw afternoon coming in, we called them to see why he hasn't come home, and they said that he never arrived there. Therefore, we went about trying to check with the neighbors to see if by chance he went anywhere, and he never returned. So we went to the police station to file a missing persons report, and nothing was done. The day they told me I had to wait 48 hours to place a missing persons report. We went the following day, Saturday, in the morning, and nothing was done in the morning because they were changing shift. So we went about and tried to do our own personal search for him, and we went back in the night to file in the report. Well, they gave us a little bit of ease because they told us that the following day they won't search, but they would check the cameras to see where was his last whereabouts, and to see where he was.
What type of more active role would you want the police to be carrying out right?
Well, to please assist us and to try to conduct more search parties, to try to see how they can aid us in finding my dad, because they're not helping, they're not doing anything, and we're trying to cooperate with them and they're not aiding us in any type of way.
Talk to me about Mr. Guerrero's mental state and why you guys are so concerned to find him as quickly as possible.
Okay, well, for one, he's an epileptic and he suffers from dementia as well. He, when he has a seizure, he loses consciousness and he just walks about in the house. So we know as from that far that that's what he does when he gets sick. So imagine him on the street, lost and not knowing where he's going.
Guerrero was last seen wearing a dark green Coca-Cola t-shirt with white lettering, grey cargo pants and black slippers. This weekend, civil unrest broke out in Guatemala City after protesters lit part of their Congress building on fire to protest budget cuts. Think of it as Guatemala's version of our House of Representatives in Belmopan, where the legislature passes laws. As for this protest, Guatemalans made it clear to their Congress people that they would not accept that budget cut. The protesters and demonstrators took to the streets to complain that the bulk of the government's funds would benefit big businesses. Some critics of the budget insisted that it put too much priority on big infrastructure projects while cutting spending on education and health. Those protesters argued that these priorities were misplaced because health ought to be the biggest concern, and the protests worked. International press reports say that because of the unrest over the budget, the final steps to make it official were not taken. Speaker of the Guatemalan Congress, Alan Rodriguez, made a public announcement that leaders of some of the parties represented in the Congress had agreed to shelve the budget for the sake of the country's stability. Kumba Dance Belize is bringing you virtual dance workshops and a virtual dance competition. It's an online dance festival organized by Karen Vernon and dancer Jaime Thompson, which promises to bring together dancers from multiple countries and multiple genres of dance. And this afternoon, we spoke to one of those organizers about why COVID restrictions haven't put a damper on dance.
Congo Dance Belize is a dance festival. And this year, because of COVID-19 and the restrictions that we faced, we decided that we'll have a virtual dance competition. So we launched that, and we got 27 entries. There are 3 different sections. It's the cultural section, hip hop and modern in both junior and senior. And then there are also solo in junior and senior. Along with that, we feature for the month of November on our social media page what we call a dancer spotlight, where we feature a dancer every day with a short bio. This week we're doing workshops on a daily basis by our international dance partners. So dancers here in Belize can join by Zoom a workshop of the different types of dances. We had ballet yesterday. Today we'll have modern. We have our dance partners from Trinidad doing Caribbean dance. So, and we have Johnny Burgess from Las Vegas doing hip hop dance. So, you know, it's dance across all genres.
We know all the limitations that have been put upon us due to COVID-19, but what are some of the ways that you'd say this year's limitations actually might benefit dancers in terms of being able to learn from people who they normally would not have access to?
In the past, we've had workshops, physical workshops, and maybe because we're maybe doing it in Cayo, you know, somebody from Corazon won't be able to attend. But because of the restrictions, everything is by Zoom. So anyone, anywhere can attend these workshops. So, you know, that is a definite plus. The competition on a whole is a plus and something that we would like to keep because it allows dancers from anywhere to enter a competition. This is the first time we're having a competition. It's usually just showcase. So, and then all this ends with a big show on Friday, with the winners from the competition, and it will also feature our international dance foreigners from the USA, Cuba, Jamaica, different places to create a excellent showcase for our viewers.
And so we have for you for tonight. Thanks for watching with Your News. I'm Indra Craig. Remember that you can see a streaming video of this newscast at 7newsbelize.com, brought to you by Digi for the best postpaid plans in the country. Remember now to wash your hands, wear a mask at all times in public, and keep your social distance. Good night, stay safe, and make sure to join me back here tomorrow at 6.